The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Dylan Mangan of the Southern Star and I'm joined by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we get into things, just like to give our listeners a gentle reminder to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose credit union, choose local, choose community. As always, we have an absolute ton to get through this week. Later on, we'll be hearing from the Ballineen Bullet, Phil Healy, who Kieran caught up with earlier this week. She is one of 3 West Cork athletes who will be travelling to Istanbul in Turkey to compete in the European Athletics Indoor Championships, which start this Thursday. But she revealed earlier this week in a social media post that she won't be running in her usual 400-metre event. Instead, she's going to focus solely on the 4x400-metre relay event after what has been, in her words, a tough few months. She goes deeper into things with Kieran later on in the show, so that's worth sticking around for. But first up today, we're going to focus on John Cleary's Cork team, who absolutely hammered a poor Limerick team at the weekend, scoring 6-18, and are now looking forward to what is a crucial game away to Clare on Sunday. Before we get into this weekend's action, Kieran, I just wanted to get your reaction to that Limerick game. I suppose there's kind of 2 questions here. One is, how good were Cork? And 2, how good did Limerick make Cork look?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said absolutely hammered, because it was a triple score win for Cork, which at senior inter-county level you don't come across too often. But Cork were ruthless. They got 6 goals. They could have scored actually more goals than that. Remember, we were chatting to John Cleary after Cork lost to Dublin the previous weekend, and he was ruining the missed chances because Cork had missed goal chances in the previous games. So it was almost like a call to arms after the Dublin game. He wanted Cork to take a higher proportion of their goal chances. They were his words, and they certainly did that. To score 6 goals against Limerick. Cork now have 10 goals in the league. They've scored the most goals of any county in all 4 leagues, and they've accumulated a total of 91 points so far in the league, which is the joint highest along with Leitrim, I think, down in Division 4. So that goes to show that the Cork attack is functioning pretty well, but there still is more to come, because the context is, like you said, Dylan, how good did Limerick make Cork look, because Limerick were poor. My God, Limerick were poor, and there's a reason that they're rooted to the foot of Division 2, and they look like they're going to go straight back down to Division 3 unless there's a very unlikely turnaround in the next couple of weeks. But Cork did what they had to do, and I wrote about it in last week's Southern Star, because Cork were coming off the back of an unwanted moral victory against Dublin, where they almost beat the Dubs but came up just short. But people were still saying, Jesus, Cork played well done to Cork. But for the lads inside in that Cork group and that Cork panel, they just don't want to come close to beating Dublin. They want to beat Dublin. So the challenge for them then was to follow up that Dublin performance by actually beating Limerick, getting a performance, getting a result, and they ticked both boxes. So I think they'll be pretty happy with the final result. They're on 4 points now, and they're going into that tough game this Sunday up in Innis.
Yeah, throw-in is at 2 p.m. in Cusack Park on Sunday, and it's a game that kind of looks like it could make or break both team seasons, or league seasons at least, because looking at it, like if Cork win, they are kind of looking at the possibility of promotion. Lose and they'll potentially be dragged into a relegation battle, and Clare are in must-win territory at this stage. So how do you see it playing out this weekend?
Division 2 is very tight. So what we've Derry and Dublin on 8 points up the top, but then Cork are in 3rd place and Clare in 7th. But there's only 2 points separating 5 teams. So like you said, like it's a make or break for both teams on Sunday in Innis. So if Cork get the win that they want, it keeps them in that promotion hunt, and it could keep it going to the last weekend when Derry travel down. But if they lose to Clare, all of a sudden then Cork are back in the relegation mix, because we got to remember that Limerick have no points and they're at the bottom of the table, and they looked almost doomed already unless there is that remarkable turnaround. So there's a lot on the line. To be fair, another piece written for Thursday Southern Star, Clare and Cork, there's been very little between them in recent years. 2017, 18 and 19, Clare beat Cork 3 years in a row in Division 2 of the league. So this isn't a Clare team that fears Cork at all. They can go toe to toe with Cork and they fancy their chances. When the teams met last year in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in Division 2, it finished a draw. I think it was 1-13 apiece each. And even look at last weekend, okay, Clare lost to Dublin. But at one stage in the second half, they were 6 points up against Dublin in Croke Park, and they were playing really good football. They ended up losing by 1 point to the Dubs, and they lost by a point to Kildare the week before. So they're just losing games. But we got to remember, Colm Collins is a really good Clare team there. And this is another test for Cork. They're going to go away to a team that are under a similar enough level to them, and to try and get a win away from home against a team like Clare. If Cork can do it, it just keeps that trajectory that they're on, keeps them trending upwards. But it's going to be a tough test. I fancy Cork to get a result up here. I do. I think it's going to be very tight. What we've seen in the last couple of games, and that Meath performance is kind of the outlier, is just the consistency to the Cork performance. There's a consistency to the selection. So I think they're ready for their next challenge. And the big but is they need to bring the level of performance that they have the last couple of weeks. Any dip at all, and Clare will punish them.
Do you think that's the next step now for John Cleary's team? Like we mentioned, they're joint top scorers across the division, created lots of chances even against Dublin, who you would say are in a different place to Cork at the moment. Is the next step like being able to kind of consistently beat teams like Clare, who are maybe level or a little bit below Cork?
Exactly that, because if you go back over the last couple of years, it's almost one of the downfall of Cork football is their inconsistency. It's like they just couldn't for years, not this Cork football team, but go back to even Ronan McCarthy and Phil Healy and the previous managers. It was the inconsistency of the Cork teams. You didn't know what you're going to get from one game to next. And what we've seen so far this year is there is a consistency to the Cork performances. They had 3 games in the McGrath Cup, and again, there's a big asterisk here. It's just the McGrath Cup, but still, Cork did what they had to do there. They've played 4 games in the league, and in 3 of them, they've been pretty good. Really good away to Kildare, hammered Limerick, and they played well even though they lost to Dublin. I know John Cleary's pointed out about the Meath performance that was the opening game that Cork lost at home to the Royal County. That it was just bad decisions and bad options that cost Cork that day. But there is a good body of work there for Cork right now. So it'd be great to see Cork go to Clare and win. I think that would be, like you said, Dylan, the next step for this team to put more consistent performances together. And I'm hoping to see that on Sunday. I'm looking forward to going up to the game in Ennis. I'm looking forward to seeing what Cork can do. Can they keep carrying this form forward? Because all of a sudden, if they win, we could be looking forward to very exciting last 2 games away to Louth and home to Derry.
Yeah, moving on now to club football was back with a bang in West Cork as well in the weekend just gone. West Cork teams had kind of a mixed bag of results across the board. Just some kind of standouts that I picked out there. Ballineen lost away to St Vincent's. It was the same fate for Bantry Blues at home against Newmarket, while there were draws for Valley Rovers, O'Donovan Rossa and Clonakilty, and Newcestown got a good win away to St Michael's. But we want to focus on the big derby between Carbery Rangers and Castlehaven, where Castlehaven got their season off to a great start with the victory by 3-12 to 4 points in Division 1. And Kieran, how will both teams be feeling after that one?
I think Castlehaven would be feeling pretty well about themselves. Like you said, 3-12 to 4-point win over Carbery Rangers. And these 2 teams will meet again in the Premier Senior Football Championship later in the summer. I think Castlehaven were surprised to win by as much as they did, because as far as I know, they'd only 1 field session done beforehand. So, and they were missing, I think it was 16 players, James McCarthy said after, including 9 Cork players. So they're missing the likes of the Brian Hurleys and the Colin Maguires and the Rory Maguire. So they're missing a lot of the Cahalans as well, a lot of their main players. But they still were able to field a pretty strong team. Mark Collins was the former Cork senior was sublime from the match report that we have in Thursday Southern Star. That he pulled the strings. He was really, really good. And instead of the likes of Michael Hurley played quite well too. Look at Mark Collins got 8 points, which and only 3 of those are from frees. So that shows he's influenced the last day. So pretty good start to this season for Castlehaven. It's just what they wanted, to get off on the front foot, get a good win under their belt, beat a local rival as well in front of albeit a small home crowd, and knowing that there is room for improvement and all those Cork players to come back. But for Carbery Rangers, Seamus Hayes, their new manager, he called it afterwards a wake-up call, and I think they'll be disappointed with their performance. To score only 4 points and only 3 of those were from play. They need to do a lot better in the weeks to come. But I suppose we have to give a context to it's just the first round of the league, and there's a long season there, like a lot of rounds in the county league ahead in the next couple of weeks and months, and the championship is until the summer, so teams will start to find their feet. But Castlehaven will be very pleased to get off the winning start, but they know that they've work to do. Carbery Rangers will be disappointed with their performance, but they'll also know that they have a lot of work to do in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, and with Castlehaven having so many players out going to play for Cork, is that something that they'll be able to kind of take into account as well? They'll be feeling good knowing that they have these players to come back at some stage. That's
exactly it. You're talking about the likes of like Brian Hurley, like who we saw was on fire for Cork there against Dublin just over a week ago. But what this does, when so many county players are involved in the county and in the inter-county bubble, it gives clubs a chance to give youth its fling, or give other fellas a go. And even looking through there, Micheál Maguire was only 17 years old, but he did really well. Shane O'Connell was a Cork minor last year, and he played the last day. Sean Brown, a wing forward, is a great prospect according to James McCarthy. So what Castlehaven were able to do on Sunday is give those young fellas a game, but give them a game beside experienced fellas, the likes of Mark Collins, Michael Hurley and Ronan Walsh, to have them inside fellas like that who know what senior football is all about, and they're well used to it, they're well experienced at this stage. So the Castlehaven will be happy with where they are right now. But I suppose it's a catch-22 for Castlehaven. The success of the club means that a lot of their players are in with county teams, but then when it comes to the county league, they don't get access to these players because they're tied up with the county and the inter-county season. So then you're trying to integrate them back into the squad when it comes to the championship. But if Castlehaven can produce performances and results like they did last Sunday against Carbery Rangers, it'll help build momentum ahead of the summer.
And just quickly now, before we go for a break, we want to move on to soccer. And it might have been a good week for Jack McCarran to leave the podcast, because his beloved Baltimore Crabs were beaten 5-0 at the weekend by Sullane FC as they claimed the West Cork League Championship title. And Kieran, Sullane's under-12 schoolgirls team has been making headlines on their National Cup run, but the league win here proves the club has quality all over.
I think Baltimore must have down tools, Dylan, to be honest. Like, kind of since Jack has left this parish, I think everyone took it really badly. Well, for the first 5 minutes until he exited stage left, we all got on with our lives. But for Baltimore to lose 5-0 to Sullane, it stinted Baltimore's promotion chances from the championship, but it crowned Sullane as the West Cork League Championship winners. So not only have they won promotion, they're going up to the Premier Division next year as champions. And we've a lovely write-up about it in Thursday Southern Star. And there's a lovely link, Dylan, that Jonathan Milan, who is the coach of the Sullane team now, his father, Sean, was the coach of the Sullane team that won the West Cork League Championship title 30 years ago, back in 1993. So it's a lovely connection between past and present for Sullane, but there's no denying that they're the best team in the championship, and they go up as champions, and they still have more to play for this season. But you touched there as well on their under-12 schoolgirls team. What a story that is! That's incredible. They're through to the last 8 in the country. They have a home quarter-final coming up. I think it could even be this weekend, which is super for the club. Great excitement. So Sullane soccer is on the rise. So congrats to all of them. But I just want to quickly point out that the 2 teams come up in the championship. So Sullane are up. There's 1 promotion spot left. And it is between Clonakilty United, Barry United and Baltimore. There's only 2 points separating the 3 clubs. And this Sunday, Barry United host Clonakilty United. So that's going to be a huge game. You know, you consider how tight the championship, top of the championship table is, and how much teams want to get promoted and up to the Premier Division. So Sullane, they're up there. They've their job done when it comes to the league. But that second promotion spot, it's up for grabs, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that could be a winner takes all game on Sunday. We're just going to take a quick break now, but stick around, as coming up next, we'll be hearing from Phil Healy.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
On last week's podcast, we discussed West Cork athletes' performances at the National Indoor Championships with Cathal Dennehy. And this week, coming up, starting on Thursday in the European Indoor Championships, Darragh McElhenney, Phil Healy and Joan Healy will all be travelling to perform there. Kieran, what can we look forward to this weekend?
So we have 3 West Cork athletes, like you said, at the European Indoor. So 1/5 of the team is from West Cork. So we're going to bang that West Cork drum again, Dylan, and celebrate our own. So we have Phil Healy in the women's 4x400 metre relay. We have Darragh McElhenney in the men's 3,000 metres, and we've Joan Healy in the women's 60 metres. So just very quickly on Joan, in last week's podcast that I was talking to Cathal, at that moment in time, Joan had decided not to go to the European Indoors, but then there was a change of plans, and it transpired she had the B standard, and then herself and her coaches, Derval O'Rourke and Marion Heffernan, decided, okay, it just pushes out the indoor season by 1 more week. Let's do this. Off the back of that, Joan went up to Dublin, I think it was Dublin on Friday night, for 60-metre races, and she ran a new PB. She ran a 7.30, which took 100 of a second off her previous PB, and also moves her to 4th in the Irish all-time list. So it just goes to show this late change of plans, what it's done for Joan now. It's all starting to come together. She's a new PB. She's heading to the Euro Indoors, high in confidence, and she's looking to get to semi-final and try to dip down into the 7.2. So that'll be great to watch. Darragh then, he's in the men's 3,000 metres. I was looking at the schedule. I think the heats of that are on Saturday morning. So the hope is that Darragh can get through to that European final, and the final is on Sunday evening. And then, of course, Phil is running in the 4x400 metre women's Irish relay team, and they're straight through to the final. It's a straight up final on Sunday evening, so Phil will be there, and we're going to hear from her now. It's been a tough couple of months for Phil. It's even more so than that. It's been a tough 10 months for Phil when we listened to her chat here. She missed most of the Irish indoor season. Her first race was at the Nationals there the weekend before last, where she relinquished her 400 metre crown while still winning silver, and things just haven't been going right for her. And she put out a post on social media. I think she tried to be transparent and tell fans what was going on, that she's had a tough few months. So that's why we caught up with this chat, just to check in and Phil, to see how she is, because what this woman has done for West Cork sport and Irish athletics should never be forgotten. I'm not writing her off, not one bit whatsoever, because anyone who knows Phil Healy knows that she's an incredible competitor, and she's battling hard to get back to top speed. And you put your money on Phil doing that, because she has that innate competitiveness inside her and that will and desire to push on. So the hope is that we do see Phil back in top speed come the summer. But I just wanted to catch up and have a chat with her just to see how things are. And she was incredibly honest, Dylan. She was incredibly forthcoming with the tough time that she's had of late, and it stretches back to before the World Indoors in March 2022. So we're always talking 12 months at this stage, So she's been struggling with consistency with her body, trying to find a form, trying to get things that work for her. She feels now she's coming out of that tough spell, and hopefully we'll see that in the weeks and months ahead as we move towards the outdoor season. But what you're going to hear now is an incredibly honest Phil Healy talking us through the last couple of months and the tough winter that she's put down. Phil, it's the week of the European Indoors, a big week. You're running in the 4x400 metre relay this week. You've opted out of the 400 metre individual. You put up a post on social media last week explaining the background and the context to your season so far, because I suppose, to be fair, it hasn't been ideal for you.
No, and look, I suppose I would just want to get that message out there because I'm not one to share an awful lot in terms of what's actually going on. It's so easy for any person to share the good days. We all do, but it's important to share the reality behind it all too. And like, success isn't linear, and it has been a tough few months. It has been a tough year, to be honest. Again, I wouldn't have shared an awful lot about it, and things didn't go to plan during the winter. Injury wise, there was absolutely zero, and I suppose no athlete wants an injury, but an injury is almost easier than it being health wise, because at least you have a road to recovery, at least you have answers, at least you have clarity, and you can work back to try get that best performance. But no, it wasn't ideal, and I suppose knowing like for me, I know the ins and outs of training, so there's absolutely no fooling me, and I suppose that's a credit to Shane because he's educated me in the sport for all these years, but it also makes me the hardest person to coach because there's no fooling me. But I knew the signs weren't there. I could easily have hid away from nationals. I didn't. I could have easily have done the 200 instead. I didn't. I raced the 400 because I wanted to play my part for the team, because I knew Ireland needed to post 4 good times to qualify for the relay for European indoors. There was 3 spots available. 3 spots for 3 countries available. 3 spots were automatically taken from European Outdoor Championships last year. So going into nationals, we weren't in the top 6. We were in the top 6 previous to that. But things had changed. So I wanted to post a time to do what I could to try and help get the team over the line. If it was good enough, great. If it wasn't good enough, at least I gave it my all. I knew that the time wasn't going to be fast for nationals. 3 rounds is also hard to manage in 24 hours. That was something new. We usually only have 2 races with the semi and straight to the final. So that was something new. But we succeeded in qualifying for Europeans. So then I opted only for the relay. I wouldn't be doing myself any justice going out there and doing the individual. It is very disappointing because 2 years ago in 2021, I came 4th at Europeans over the 400, and it was an absolutely stacked 400. This year is very different. A lot of the top athletes have opted out from going. Then I look at, say, my times from last year would probably rank me around 3rd or 4th going into this championship if I was running. But that's how it rolls. You can only race who's there. I'm not in shape this year. And I want to go out and do my best for the relay instead next week. And I suppose it is the first major indoor championship that I have missed since 2016, and I've had a great run of things, major championship after major championship. But this is sport, and this is how it rolls. Not every day is a good day, and I just wanted to make it clear. And I suppose I did have the option to speak to media before nationals.
Mhm.
I didn't want to. Because it might come across that I'm like making excuses or I'm looking for pity or different things like that. I just wanted to toe the line and do what I could for that team. And then the post last week was just about being honest, and it was just to be transparent because people are invested in your journey as well. So it is important to be clear and explain the reasons why the performances aren't the way they are this year. But hopefully they can come around.
Because at the Irish Indoor Championships recently, that was your debut this season, and that was almost at the end of February. So could you pinpoint what happened over that winter training block, Phil, that just knocked you back that bit?
Yeah, and I suppose we can go back further. It's ever since I got COVID last year before World Indoors, got COVID the week before World Indoors, and my body hasn't been the same since. Throughout last outdoor season, I couldn't get the consistency in training. I was just, it was just lacking that. And like, performances are built on consistency. One day would be good, the next day would be chronic. Europeans in Munich last August were chronic individually, ran a good relay leg in the heat, wasn't happy with the relay leg in the final again, but that shows my body is good one day, it isn't the next. Took my break, came back training, everything was going well, and I was like, okay, my body is definitely back now. Then in November, things took a turn. Everything was just so much harder than it usually was. Like, I was hitting times that I'd probably ran when I was about 16 years old, and it was like a struggle to hit them. And like, say for me, I would run 150s if I was running 400-meter pace in 18.2 seconds. That would be my usual 400 pace, whereas I was now going 100% effort, and it was like 18.6, 18.7. And if anyone knows athletics, that's absolutely chronic in comparison to 100% effort to 400-meter back straight pace. So that was tough, and there was 5 weeks there where things were really, really hard. I definitely contemplated if it was the end, like if my body was ever going to come back. And I was like, is it worth continuing on? Because I literally didn't have the answers. And like, it was just week after week, it was a struggle. And like, it wasn't just that winter. It had been going from March the previous year. And like, yes, there's acceptance of things aren't where they're at, but that obviously takes a toll mentally and physically as well. And like, you're working with, obviously Shane is there the whole time, training partners see it. And to be honest, if you weren't at training, if you weren't Shane, my psychologist, or say my physio as well, you wouldn't have seen what was going on, you know, because I didn't share it with anybody. And like, was constantly getting blood tests and different things like that. My white cells were really low at one point. My thyroid has been a bit all over the place. So it's just constantly, there has been one thing after another, and my body has never responded. And I suppose we stuck with it. Indoor season has always been my thing. Like last year, like I ran 6:51 second runs. Yeah. This year nationals was 2.2 seconds slower than I won nationals last year. And like, that's absolutely a massive distance in terms of track, over 2 seconds, but that's where it is. And I suppose it's not, as I said, it's not linear. I wanted to be clear, because end of the day, you're exposed, I suppose, when you're out there running, and like, it's easy for people to comment. And even say at nationals, people were like, oh, but you started full-time work now, everything changes with that. And like, I'm like, you honestly don't have a clue. That is not the answer. Work has actually been a great balance, and it has been really beneficial into the whole thing. And like, it's not stressful. I work from home. It has been a great addition, to be honest. But yeah, that's where things have been over the last year, to be honest. And I just hope things are coming around. Had a really positive session last week, and it was the first time that I felt myself in months, to be honest. But it's just bits of things are there. Like, we have to keep training. Like, not training isn't the answer either. We took the intensity out of things, and even the slow pace stuff was harder. But my strength is there. My speed is slowly coming back. So fingers crossed the outdoor season comes together, because in the day, come July, the qualification opens for Paris. And Paris is more important than one indoor season in the bigger picture of things. That actually doesn't count for anything.
I didn't realise, Phil, it got to the stage over the winter where you actually contemplated kind of packing it in, which is incredible for me trying to wrap my head around now, because you've given so much to athletics over the years. But like, at that moment in time, were you just thinking, oh God, is this ever going to get right? Was that almost the frame of mind you were in at that time?
Absolutely. And someone listening might think, oh, that's so dramatic, because that's sport and not everything is going to be good all the time. But like, it was at an all-time low, and it was going on for so long that I didn't have the answers of why things were so wrong, you know, at that point. And like, there was so many times I said to Shane, I was like, you can't tell me that my body is going to come back. You don't know. Like, we can't see what's ahead. And like, it was frustrating, so frustrating for both of us. And I was definitely so hard to deal with during those times. But as the athlete, when you give so much to this sport, it's your job at the end of the day. Like, if you're not performing in yours, like if you're in an office job or whatever your actual role is, and if you're not performing for a year, you're not going to enjoy it. And you're like, why am I in this? You know? But this is sport, and you just have to stick with it. And things are slowly coming around. And I suppose it is important to highlight that not every day is a good day. There's more bad days than good days behind it all. But yeah, that's where things have been. And like, it has been a struggle, but we're coming around the right side of it now.
How is the body feeling now?
Yeah, everything is going good for now, and I'm looking forward to going into European Championships and focusing on the relay. And I suppose it's different performing with a team instead of individually, so it takes that pressure away as well. There is a great Irish team going overall. With the relay, it's super because it's straight into a European final already. And it's great that the team got over the line and made the qualification, because it was tough qualification to get. So I'm really looking forward to going out there and racing Sunday with the team. And it's great to see as well that we have two really young athletes a part of the 4x4 panel, which shows that the depth is constantly increasing in Ireland 4x4 relay squads and 400 meters in general. So it's great to see the upcoming athletes and making their senior debut, and I suppose being one of the senior people on the team overall. But no, it's super, and it keeps everybody on their toes. But yeah, I suppose it could be the case where it was an injury and I can't compete at all. At least I can go out there and I can represent the country. Yes, I'm not at my best, but I will go out there and give it my all.
I know you said you were 2 seconds off your time at this year's Nationals compared to last year's Nationals, and you had 3 rounds to go through. What was it like actually getting back to the start line and getting back to running after going through the winter that you had been through? Was it almost a relief, Phil, to be able to do what you do again?
Absolutely, and it was very nerve-wracking as well, because usually when I'm going into races, I have all my markers, I have the confidence knowing what is going to come, and I suppose in every session we're looking for something, and I'm not hitting those markers, and I'm not like delusional either at the same point, because I know that something isn't good enough if it isn't good enough, and I'm a very black and white person. Like, it's either good enough or it isn't. And I suppose, especially when I run over 400, I'm always first to the bell. Like, I know I have the speed, and I know I have the speed reserve to come home. Going into nationals, the aim was to be second at the bell, because I didn't trust my speed fully, and that was the plan. And it was more like, hang in and see what you can actually do. And I suppose I ran a tactically poor race as well, but yeah, it was just a different approach. And I suppose that comes with experience, knowing things aren't there as well. But it was good to get back into that competition environment into the day. I didn't want to shy away from it. I easily could have and hid for another while and wait till outdoor season, but we got that team over the line, and everybody played their part in getting that team over the line. So it's great that we can race next week at the European Championships.
And it's probably important to mention too, this is a long season this year. This is quite a long season. I think the Nationals aren't till, are they July this year?
Yeah, so, end of July, with Worlds I don't think they're until the end of August. So it is a very, very long year. And I suppose the main part of the season is come the 1st of July, because that's when Paris qualification opens again. So I want my body to be back fully performing again. And we definitely will be going back to an old school summer of racing 100s and 200s. So you certainly will see me back over the shorter distances. I've always wanted to race more of them, but it just, with the type of season, trying to fit the races in when you're looking for ranking points and different things like that, it's hard to fit them all in. But no, I definitely want to go back and race over the shorter distances, and with the 400 obviously in there as well.
How much looking forward to that? Because like the 100, 200, like you've specialized in the 400 over the last couple of years, but to dip back down again, how much are you looking forward to that? Because there's another certain Healy sister who's looking forward to the outdoor 100 season as well.
Absolutely, and I don't think she knows yet that I will be back over 100 meters. But no, like it is great. And end of the day, whether I'm doing 100, 200, or 400, I need to be in PB shape over 100 and 200 to run a fast 400, because speed is key. So 2018 was a great season, Irish record after Irish record over 100 and 200. Somehow I'm still managing to hold on to that 100-meter national record. I think it's only going to be a few weeks now before Rashida actually takes that from me. But no, they're enjoyable, and they change it up. And it's nice to dip back down. And I suppose you look at the best of the athletes internationally, everyone has a fast 100 or a fast 200 if they're running a fast 400. So it is key, and it's good to change things up as well. And I suppose it's great to have 3 events, but it's also very frustrating, because you're like, which event will I race where, or trying to plan things in. Training wise, it doesn't really change anything much. It's more when it comes to racing, because sometimes I'm like, Lord, I wish I could only do one event because it would be definite of what I'm actually racing and when.
You mentioned there earlier, Phil, as well, like about getting back to your best. And I think I touched on it earlier, but can you see those signs that everything is trending upwards for you again, that come the summer, that you'll be hitting those markers that you want to hit? Is that your target now, coming off the back of that winter, just to keep inching forward and just to try and rediscover your best form?
100%, and it's about taking things slowly, I suppose. And for me, it's just about building that consistency again and getting the training blocks in, because there was no training block in the winter that was clear, because I was either not able to do the sessions, I was sick, or there was just something all the time where I couldn't do that. So it's all about putting the work in, continuing to build that foundation. The work that I have done isn't going to go to waste. It's always going to pay off at some point. But yeah, that's 100% what it is about. Like for me, my strength is definitely increased. That's another major part. So at least all the bits are there. They all just need to gel together in their own ways, and then just the speed to get that bit sharper. But it will all come with consistency. So hopefully by the summer I will be back to my best. And outdoor season is only in a couple of weeks' time, so it all does roll around fast. But hopefully, yeah, it's an exciting summer, and that my body does respond and I stay healthy and injury free and everything like that. And yeah, fingers crossed.
Touch wood, we all wish the same for you. And I think you were so impressive the way you highlighted what went on in the winter, because life in sport, it's not linear. It's there's these ups and downs, and you've seen both sides of the coin. Like you've had the good days, and you've had the not so good days as well. So like the hope is too, you'll come out of this a stronger person for it as well.
100%, and like mental resilience is obviously a massive part in everything. And I suppose, like, no matter how strong you are, it does take a toll at some point. But this is the sport we do. We love it, we hate it. It's part and parcel of sport. I've had a great run of things. Like, I've never had any major injury, touch wood, bar a few dislocated shoulders and a broken foot. So I have had a really good time of it. This is just something that obviously has come in the way, but it makes you who you are. And hopefully I will look back on this and laugh at like how poor the performance was, and knowing how good things can actually be in future.
100%, and the very best to look in Istanbul this week. And thank you so much for your time as always, Phil.
Super, Kieran. Thanks a million.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. We're going now to take a look at what's coming up in this week's sports section. And Kieran, I'm just going to stick my neck out in the line and say that readers are probably in for yet another treat when they flick through to the sports pages this week. What will they find?
You're dead right, Dylan. It's a treat. It's a treat every Thursday for the Southern Star readers to find our sports pages and work their way through them. So we have an awful lot going on. It's a really busy sports section this week. So there was a clean sweep for the Cork teams at the National League. So the footballers, the hurlers, the ladies footballers and the camogie team, they all won. So we have a lot of reaction from that. Like just for a second, Libby Coppinger from St. Columns got 2-2 for the Cork ladies footballers as they hammered Donegal. And the day before she had the camogie team beat Clare. So she had a very busy weekend. We also have the match report from Castlehaven and Carbery Rangers, and a roundup from some of the West Cork teams in the West Cork League. Just for example, Mark Buckley coming off the bench to score an injury time winning goal for Donnies. Rory Byrne scoring a last gasp equaliser for O'Donovan Rossa. So we have a roundup of the county leagues. Also in Thursday Southern Star, we unveil who the 2022 West Cork Sports Star Youth Award winner is. So that's an exciting one for people to look forward to on Thursday. In last week's Southern Star, we revealed that Castlehaven have won the Special Achievement Award for the West Cork Sports Star Awards, which will be on March 11th. So listeners need to keep reading the Southern Star over the next couple of weeks for all the news from that. Looking down through it here, Dylan, in road bowling, what we had what we had last week was the Board Coming Convention, and we've a full report from that and Michael Brennan's thoughts. When it comes to the schoolboys and schoolgirls soccer, it was a good weekend for the West Cork teams in the Interleague to have advanced to Munster finals. And also Hamilton High School are through to an All-Ireland Senior Schools B hurling semi-final this weekend. They're taking on a Galway school on Saturday, and I was talking to their coach Aidan O'Donoghue about their recent Munster final win as they won the cup for the second time ever and the first time I think in 30 years. So there's an awful lot going in there, including PB for Nicola Tuttle, the young hammer thrower from Kilbrittain. Over 2.5 metres she added to her previous PB, which is incredible. So she was also in our Next Generation a couple of weeks back when we were profiling the top young sports stars of West Cork. So there's an awful lot going on, and it's well worth checking out on Thursday morning, whether you get it in a shop or online.
Yeah, all that will be available, as Kieran said, in shops across West Cork from Thursday morning. You'll also find a free wedding supplement in this week's paper, which features tips and advice for both bride and groom, along with a great feature on multicultural weddings in West Cork. As always, if you're further afield, can't make it to the shops, or just can't be bothered going out, you can subscribe to the Southern Star e-paper and get the Southern Star on your laptop, tablet or mobile phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks for listening.